Takes a little every day to go a long way. God's love never stray from the day to day. So I pray, keep the faith and praise the Lord. Praise the Lord, save me, Lord. It takes a little every day to go a long way. God's love never stray from the day to day. So I pray, keep the faith and praise the Lord. Praise the Lord, save me, Lord. It's the things you believe in that keep you striving. Yo, I'm aiming for the top, so I keep on climbing, surviving, rising like the sun in the east. If the Lord be the light, let him shine.
Good morning, everyone. Happy Sunday on this special edition of the Squad and Friends. We're focusing on mental health. Let me just give you a little bit of background. Our own Teresa Brown, who's a mental health clinician, she works in the field, and she's been getting a lot of people talking about how they need to address mental health. And then, we talk about a lot. Then your comments on the thread talked about so much of people who are going through issues with mental health. So she said, we need to do a special Squad and Friends edition of this. And so I said, Teresa, that is so true. I said, God revealed that to you. So, she said, hey, she gonna make that t-shirt. You can have God and a therapist. They go hand in hand. And so we decided that we're going to focus on that, a special on Sundays. So tell your friends, family, to get you some inspiration for the new year, just help you unpack certain things, because we're anxious, a lot going on with new transitions and new administrations, and we don't know what's happening, but we know that if we have some mental health therapy and God, we can make it through anything. So I got some great guests on the program this morning. They lent their skills in to share their stories and help the people. And we're going to be taking questions too. So if you have some questions, throw it into the chat and we will address them. So first, I'm going to introduce, she's like family. She's Sean's baby sister. We're going to say, what's up, Rashee?
Pascal? Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Hey, thank you for being on. It's been a while since you've been on the squad, but you stepped up to the plate for this one. You said you're gonna, it's mental health. We, got your background, your expertise, and it's great. We're glad you're here. So and also a wellness coach and a fitness guru who's right here in Orlando. We're happy to say that is Candice Leanos. Can you help me with that last name?
Leanos.
Got
Hi,
it.
everyone.
How's it going?
It's cold here, but it's good.
Yes. And Rashee, you said it's even cold in Bermuda.
In Bermuda, it is. We like to call it damp. So it's cold outside, but the stone from our buildings hold that dampness. So sometimes it's even colder inside. As you can see, I'm in a whole turtleneck today.
Oh my God. Yeah. And don't let this t-shirt fool you, because it is cold outside. So. But I'm inside. So we have our special guest expertise clinician, Garry Graham. What's up, Garry? Muted. Unmute yourself.
Hey, Dan. Good morning. Thank you for having me here. Good morning, ladies. Great to join a panel of experts. I'm very excited.
Wow. Yes. So, Rashee, we're going to start out with you since I brought you in first. Can you tell our viewers a little bit about your background and just about yourself a little bit.
Sure. So currently, by day, I am a counseling team leader for a nonprofit organization called the Family Center, where we support children and their families ages 4 to 18. So my specialty is primarily with children and families. By night, I am the proud owner of R. Smith Child and Family Therapy, where it's a very small business because I do it after my full-time job, where I see teens, particularly right now, focusing on several issues of anxiety, depression, even some that may have had challenges with suicidal ideations. So just supporting them with their mental health and their needs, ensuring that they have the skills and tools to better themselves, not just for now, but ongoing in life.
Okay, okay. So Candice, Leanos.
Closer, closer. We're
Yes,
working
yes.
it.
Tell us about yourself and your background.
So first and foremost, my most favorite job is I'm a wife and a mother to 5 kids. Homeschooling. We've been homeschooling for probably about 12 years now. And since then, I have noticed a need and a growth desire to help people with wellness, especially in spaces of homeschooling. So I became a health and wellness coach, as well as a personal trainer, nutritionist, and a naturopathic practitioner. And so we opened up a business called My Piece of Health, where I help families every single day to not only help them with their nutrition goals and their fitness, but also to make sure that they have some more peace in their lives with all
Mm,
this chaos going on that they have to deal with, and just kind of help to have a piece of heaven when they enter into their home. So making sure that their homes is a sacred space to give God the glory, but also to make sure that they could continue on with their lives throughout the encouraged and feeling stronger as they reach other people in their
mm.
workplaces and everything else that they have to do.
Okay, great. Sounds awesome. So Gary, tell us about
Yes, sir.
yourself. But
Uh,
don't tell us things that I know a lot, hey, so
right,
just go
right.
ahead.
I'll just keep it simple. I like to consider myself a behavioral therapist consultant. Uh, that would that would probably cover everything. I do have my own private practice um, that takes up most of my work, and somewhere in between, I work on the consulting side, help
Mm,
help the corporate space become more mental health minded and behavioral health minded. You can't go to work if you're not doing well in your mind.
that's right.
And I think I think the best thing to say over the last 6 years since I've been working in my own space, it has been a blessing, and I've got an opportunity to help people. There's 4 pillars I work with:
Mhm.
grief, uh, boys, substance abuse, and I think Rashee and Candice could say this, which is a very hard space, is couples. And I touch that once in a while. And anybody who can really do couples therapy, God bless them. But is very underrated, but needed.
Wow, wow. That's a lot to impact. So we got some heavy hitters on here today. That's why I said we starting out the new year right. We want to
Right.
recharge everyone's mind and focus because it's a lot happening out there. And so hey, this is for free on the Sunday. So if you guys, you better tune in and get some free advice, help you out for the new year. So so yeah, so I guess I'll start out by saying this. Have you guys seen or noticed an uptick in like mental health disparities and needs? Anybody can jump on in
I
on
would
that.
say not just an increase, but maybe more so an awareness. I'd say some of the challenges have consistently been there, but
Mm-hmm.
sometimes throughout multi-generational issues, our way of upbringing, we may not necessarily identify that what we're experiencing is a mental health concern or trauma or a challenge. Sometimes I find that most of my clients, adults and parents included, identify their challenge and move through it as if it's normative, not realizing that there's multi-generational ties attached to the way that they're living or the way that they're moving or their perceptions of things in life. So I think with the awareness, and one great thing of social media is that it's bringing so much more awareness to the challenges that we are facing and bringing more light to our to everyone out there, that allows them to tune in more, to check in, to kind of build some self-awareness of, maybe this isn't okay. Maybe this way of thinking or this way of moving is not all right. Maybe I don't need to be stressed all the time. Maybe I don't need to always be dealing with depression or going in and out of happiness. So I think the awareness has shed a light that allows it to seem like it's increasing.
Okay.
Yeah,
Garry.
I agree with that. Mental health issues has been here since day one. There's even specific places in the Bible. One of my favorite is to notice that King Saul was a true narcissist, and growing up, nobody has ever brought that out. And so there are issues in our community that has always gone about, and we have been taught to tough it out.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah.
and we have been taught not to go there or go to counseling about certain issues. I just think, saying what Rashee said is, I think one of the bigger issues that really have come about is in our sports entertainment space, where people has committed suicide or attempted to commit suicide. In particular, Simone Biles and the young tennis player who pulled out
Yeah.
of competition to take care of their mental health. And they laughed at it and they scoffed at it. And to see Simone Biles come back 4 years later in Paris and really succeed.
That's
And
deep.
so there are little um, examples of that, not only on a grand stage, but on a smaller stage. So people have lost, corporations has lost productivity, and in that space, people has decided to do something about it. So
Yeah.
again, just to kind of cover up, this is nothing new. It's just kind of been brought to light with social media and everything that we see now.
So Candice, hearing what they're saying, it just seemed like it made sense for you to kind of formulate the type of business
Yeah.
that you have, the wellness, because it's like, wow, there's so many people are dealing with so many issues that they don't know how to uh, come to that stage of wellness and being, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah, one of the things too that I've noticed is that we are now living in a much more faster paced world. And I think that oftentimes it doesn't allow our minds to just have a moment of peace, a moment of quiet, to just, reflect on everything that we have going on, to deal with the stress. Although, yes, I definitely agree, it's always been in existence. But I do think that we are dealing with some unique challenges with
Yeah.
so much being exposed to us at once. And we're constantly like in this fight or flight stage of life right now. So I think that it really has also increased, but also I think that we are becoming so much more aware of this need to slow down and to really deal with our health, both mentally and physically.
Well, and I'm glad you said what you said, because there's a video that we're gonna look at of your testimony, and I love the transparency that you shared on there, and we're gonna we're gonna unpack some of the issues that was related to you, but not only to you, but just people who are going through things that are not don't have the courage to come out and talk about it. So I'm glad you shared that. I just want to give a shout out to Michelle Brown, Rebecca Smith. My wife is there watching, Reginald Shuri, and everybody else. All those who are tuning in, thank you. Tell your friends, because this is going to be a needed topic that we need to discuss. So I'm going to. I got it queued up. So just bear with me for a second. I am going to transfer ourselves over to this in a minute. Okie dokie. Let's see.
Just the sadness began to wear on me. I started to recognize that I was grieving. I was grieving both my childhood, the things that I lost. I was aware, hyper aware now of certain abuses that I dealt with, that maybe I suppressed growing up. I was hyper aware of knowing what God had wanted for me and just not going that direction. And I started to weep. And if you know anything about being in Chicago, this is not the place that you cry. This is not the place that you have to be kind of tough. And I start to fear because as I was crying, my son was in that back seat and he began to be aware of the pain that I was dealing with. And with that being said, he started to ask me questions, and he was only 3.5 at the time. And he was like, "Mom, why are you crying?" And if I had to pause because I did not know exactly what the pain was. And I just told him, because I'm trying to talk to a 3-year-old, that, hey, mom's heart is hurting right now. And I watched him just kind of observed himself. He was looking at his arms, he was looking at his legs, and he finally came across like an ouchie. And ever since he was little, I felt like I could not do anything to help my son. So I would always say to him, if he was ever hurt, Jesus will heal it. Amen. That was all I knew. And so Jesus, he looked at his body and he found an old ouchie, and it was there months ago. So it was like his skin was a little bit darker. And he said, "Mom, look, you see this ouchie? Remember?" And he's like reminding me of what happened that day, and it was bleeding and it hurt so bad. And then he calmly said, "Mom, but remember, Jesus healed it." And this little boy's voice gave me something that I never really realized that I needed, and that was hope. And so as he was looking at this ouchie and he was still just observing it, and I'm trying to make sure that I'm not being too emotional because I needed this young man to be a man, and I felt like emotions was too much, and I needed to show some strength for him in this time. And he didn't have his father to help him at this moment. So I was trying to pull it together, and as I was pulling it together, the tears just kept falling even more. And then he says, "Mom, don't worry. You see, I have a scar." And I said, "Yes, Armand, yes, you have a scar." And he was like, "Yes, but this scar means that Jesus is going to remind us. We might have scars, but it just helps us remember that Jesus heals things. So your heart might have a scar, Mom, but Jesus is going to heal it." And in that moment, he reached over and he touched his little sister. Again, I'm only 18, 19 years old, and now I have 2 kids. And this was a newborn baby, and I had nowhere to go. I felt completely alone and depressed. And that day, I just gave it to God. It was the most peace that I had, and I did not know the future. Eventually, I thought that if I just keep praying to God, that he was going to bless this marriage that I was in, and that he was going to sanctify it, and that when my ex was going to come out of the prison, that we were going to be this great family, we we're going to do great things. And unfortunately, it did not end that way. And I was questioning God, like, "God, you said that you was going to heal these things. Where are you?" And God in that moment revealed to me that he was going to send somebody to me that was going to help draw me closer to God. And I could not explain this moment that I had. It was just like a silent moment that God gave me this little bit of peace. And so I went ahead and allowed the divorce to take place. I was not a willing participant, but I went ahead and allowed it. What I did not know is that my husband got baptized that same weekend. And eventually I started going back to a different church. I started going to an English speaking church. And when I was going, that's where I met my husband. And there was some questions that he had. I remember the very first question he asked me was, "What do I think about the 144,000?" And again, I'm like now 20 years old, 21, not knowing what I think about these things, it's things I never thought about, but I knew that this was the man that God had told me was going to bring me closer. And so we sat there, we had Sabbath together, ways that I've never had Sabbath. We prayed together in ways that I never prayed. And eventually we decided that we was going to start doing some more missionary work, and we went to Arizona, where I started to do more medical missionary. I started learning different processes of this, and I started to work for God. And Satan was not done. He was literally causing all kind of distraction for me. My family was tearing apart. My mother left the church. I felt again in this place of loneliness, and I did not know where to turn. And so eventually we moved here to Florida. And in this process, it felt like we had so many highs and so many lows, but there was another moment where I have now 5 kids, and their names spelled out the word peace. Their acronym is the word peace, and we did not plan it like that, but God was good and he allowed it to be this way. But in this moment of just constantly just working, doing God's will, and being very active, I recognized that I still felt a sense of loneliness. I felt questioning, is God really here? And we dealt with a lot of church hurt. We dealt with a lot of situations, in particular my daughter. And in that process, as I started to be away from what I would consider God's people, not knowing where to go, in this lonely moment, I cried out to God again. I was in a car in the same exact location that we're in today. And I just said, God, I have been doing all these things for you. I have been praying. I have been working for you. And I feel like you have still left me out here by myself. If you are real, I need you to reveal yourself in a real way. And a week later, I was on the phone. I had some clients. I started a business, a wellness coaching business. And I was talking to a client, and I felt the Holy Spirit tell me to get off the phone and immediately go check on my daughter. And in that moment, I got off the phone. I've never felt that kind of impression before. So I ran to her room and I didn't see her. And I'm yelling her name. I'm looking at my phone, looking to see her location. It looked like she was in the house. And I noticed that the bathroom door light was on. And I went to go shake the door, and it was locked. And I'm calling her name, calling her name. And I tell my son to hurry up and get the key, so that way we can unlock this door as quickly as possible. And before he can even make it, the door just opened. And what I found in that moment was a note. It was a suicide note. It was the hardest part of most mothers can ever see. And I found her in a tub, completely blue. We drug her out. And in that moment, I started remembering, like, okay, God, this is why I went through nursing school. And yes, I felt like I threw it away. I felt like I just started homeschooling my kids, and I didn't live in this calling, but I was able to use these resources that he's called me to, so that way I can help save my child's life. And I was thankful in those moments, but I was still wrestling with God, like, why did you allow this? What did I do wrong? I tried to do everything that you say to do, and yet my daughter is still suffering. And how do I fix this? How can you fix this? And just still remembering just the prayer that I asked the week before. I'm like, God, how are you showing up in this? I don't see you. And completely ignoring the fact that that door just opened on its own. I wasn't even there in that moment. But eventually we get to the hospital. She's doing great. She's feeling better. And then we have to leave her. And it was the saddest moment for me. I had not left her from that day 18 years prior, where she was in that car. I did not leave her side. We stayed close, and I always was trying to pour into her. And so this was hard for me to just leave her side at this moment. And as I got in the car, and tears still falling, my husband is trying to console me. My little girl, who's now 3, the same age as my son, asked me the same exact question that my oldest son asked just 18 years prior. She said, Mom, why are you crying? And she said the same thing, Jesus is going to heal it, Mom. And it was this confirmation that I knew that God was real, that he is the one that brings us peace. And I needed to just keep my eyes on him. And it was so easy for the enemy to take my eyes. The enemy wanted me to take my eyes off of Jesus
and to doubt everything that I did before this. But he kept reminding me, I am the same God who was there for you when you were 16, the same God who was there for you when you were dealing with challenges as a young child. And I will continue to be that God for you and your family until the day I return.
Thank you for that testimony.
Wow.
That was
It, it
awesome.
was it's a lot to unpack, and yeah, thank you for that testimony. Thank you for being vulnerable and sharing that. Um, you know, loneliness, depression, so those things. Being so young and being a mother. Hey, I'm not the therapist, but so just I'll start off with Rashee. How and it's a blessing that Candice is an overcomer. How do someone deal and unpack those type of feelings? Not just Candice, but just
Those are a lot of feelings. The beautiful part of it is that she was able to recognize and identify what she was feeling. The other beautiful thing is she was able to attach some of the triggers. What were the situations? What were the circumstances that led to her feeling the way she was feeling? And even more recently on our show today, her mentioning things before her, like that she may have brought up and seen her childhood, things that she didn't have much control over then, but
okay.
may have still had an impact on how her life was playing out in those very moments. And I think that's huge to be able to recognize and to connect that, because from there you only then have that awareness of, I need something. What is that? Because living this way, having these situations continuously come about for me is no longer working, is not working. This can't be life for me. So being able to have that realization and know that something is needed kept her on that path of looking for something, wanting for something. And even still, where so many people give up, still reaching out to God for that support and for that answer and for that awareness. And you could see, and I'm probably sure if we heard even more of the story, we'd see how God has specifically put certain people and maybe even situations in her life that helped her to overcome, where it all started from an emotion and that realization.
Wow, Garry.
So one of the things that I think one of my superpowers is, and it's not really a superpower, is that people look the part, but they're not playing the part. And
Mm,
so it looks like everybody has it together. So if Candice hasn't opened her mouth, you wouldn't know any of this that's going on. So we think people who has mental health issues should be on the street, should be strung out. They're not together. I mean, even people of color, like I tell people as a therapist, I don't hear, but I listen. You know, people of color don't go to Arizona per se, right? People of color, for her to mention prison and little words like ouchie, those are the language that she uses amongst her tribe and her kids. And she mentioned medical missionary. I'm not trying to break things down. I'm just trying to let the audience know that people who you do not think is struggling, and it doesn't even have to be a struggle, people who has issues are just like me and you. I was reading an article about the NBA. Brian Windhorst, who is a reporter for the NBA, he's pretty prominent now, and he's said that he is surprised the amount of people who are unhappy in the NBA, whether you're playing or whether you're an executive or you in a space that people look up to. Just because you have money doesn't mean that everything is going all right. So I implore the audience, I implore your friends, or most of all, what Candice did is look in the mirror and you say to yourself, I'm not doing well today, and I have to be well today. So let me either take some time, 15 minutes, or plan to go against the day so I can win. And I used to laugh at the words of being affirmative to yourself, but you have to sometimes take the time to recalibrate every day. This is
Mm-hmm.
every day to
Mm-hmm.
make sure you're moving in the right trajectory and the right and put yourself in the right position.
And I think
So,
that's where our challenges come about. People don't take the time. And I think, Candice, that's probably where your business came from, is seeing the need to take the time. We just get so used to getting up and going and just going and going and going, which continues to put our emotions, our situations, our experiences on the back burner, continuously being undealt with. And there's a book that talks about the body holds the score. And I
mm,
think your business like speaks directly to that. So yes, we can ignore these things and kind of keep pushing through as much as possible, but it will show up. It will show up in our moods. It will show up in our emotions. It will show up physically in our bodies. So if we are not taking the time, our bodies will kind of force us to have to.
mm. So Candace, how did you, maybe it's a rhetorical question. How did you take charge of yourself through those situations of loneliness, and how can it to put everything together so you're not just helping yourself, but now you're helping other people?
Yeah, that's a great question. You know, to take charge means I feel like I've almost like I had to be in charge at some point, and I don't really ever remember a place that I was ever in charge. If you was able to hear the rest of hear like the prior part of my life growing up, it was one of those things that everything was out of
Good.
control. Yeah,
Uh-huh.
So with that being said, I actually read this book. Well, I didn't read the whole book. I had like read little pieces of a book called The Great Controversy. And I was very young at the time. And it was one of the things that made me realize that there is something playing out that is beyond our control. And that the enemy, I mean, I was probably like 15, 16 when I would start to hear about this book more and read little excerpts and stuff, that there is a battle between good and evil. And I became very interested in that idea, because what it was saying to me is this was not excuse me, this is not God's plan. This is not what he desires for us, but this is what the enemy wants for us, so that way we can be completely separated from him. And so he was going to continue to throw things our way. And so having that, I'm so thankful to have a praying grandmother who would say these things around me, not even knowing what I was going through or the impact that these words was making, but also seeing her praying for us and telling me to nope, come back in the house, don't go out there. I think that it just set a tone in as far as in my family, that God cares, and that if we don't have to take control, we just have to give it to him. And so I feel like when I just started giving him all of the problems, giving him all my worries, he started to reveal to me things that was more in line with him. And I think that one of the biggest things is I'm going to keep saying it, is that we have too much stuff that we are doing daily. And one of you guys mentioned the taking the time for ourselves throughout the day. One of the first things that I feel so important to do is start our morning off in prayer, start our morning off in his word. And I think that it wholeheartedly sets a different tone, and not to be rushed when it comes to just having a relationship with him, and to think on the things daily throughout the day, to be so focused on what he has for us. And when working with mothers in particular, I feel like there's so much that they're dealing with emotionally too. Just the idea of having babies and what goes into the health and wellness um, of being able to carry a child, the mental stresses and worries, and the part about being a parent can cause us to always be on 10. And I think that when I have told a lot of these mothers, like, hey, how much time do you actually spend in the word? Just like reading just a simple passage. It's nothing, serious, but just starting in the morning, the reset that I see that takes place when we slow down just to talk to God, then God starts to show us more things that we need to deal with. And we can take to him all of those worries and all of the pains that we're suffering with, all of our trauma, all of and he gives us great counselors like you guys to continue to work through those things, because I think it really is important that we just surrender it all to him, because he's the one that knows all, and he's the one victory is already his, and we just have to claim it.
It's very, that's very profound. Gary, what you were saying about you can have a lot of money but still people, the basketball players. I was thinking about that person that was in Las Vegas who blew himself up in that Tesla. Reading his background, he said that he experienced the American dream. He had everything. He had the money. He had this, that, and the other, but he still wasn't happy. So the road to healing and wholeness is more than just money. Although we think that, hey, you give me the money, I can solve the problems. um, where does wholeness start, Gary?
Where does what?
Wholeness start?
Man, that starts with you. I tell everybody this. It starts with sleep, and it starts with rest. If you should not be tired, you should be getting rest before you get tired. So I'm going to start with that. So I am not a good example of that. Once your body repairs itself, it comes on off a different plane. That's why I'm very happy. I work with Rashee, not only because we have like-minded thought processes, but like a lot of people who are into fitness and into their mental health, that is a 1-2 combination that that you can't beat. So whether you're jogging and whether you're exercising, when you get rest and you get your exercise, your brain, or the dopamine, I don't want to get too technical because that's not where I go. I just keep it simple. It just opens a whole corridor of making better decisions. So I give you a case in point. I've been blessed to now travel the country or travel the world under intense issues, whether it's a mass shooting or it's in a corporate setting. But I found myself unprepared in the back end. So you'll see me speak, put it together, look the part, but then when I go back home, I'm just like a total mess because I'm getting up late, I'm sleeping late. In order to compensate for me to bring the right message, whether it's a message of Christ, a message of healing, or a message of wellness, I have to get somebody else to help me so I can make the right decisions. And it shouldn't have to get to that because we should prepare for our mental health each day. We should be in our spiritual health each day, and we should be in our physical fitness each day.
So like one of the comments is P. Gary, people often work harder on hiding and masking than healing. Were you masking, Gary?
Absolutely. Absolutely. My last name is Graham, so I could remix anything. But the bottom line is that I paid a price. Not only on the back end, but on the front end. So, but here's the thing: I paid attention, and each time I get better. And so the masking process for me didn't get me that far. So when I took care of the rest, when I took care of the nutrition, when I
Okay.
took care of stopping and getting that sun that I don't get as
Mm.
much in the Northeast. So, like for instance, real quick, in the Northeast, I don't get as much sun as in Arizona and San Diego. I know that, or where you live, or even Bermuda or Apopka. But the case in the point is, I kind of reverse things. That when it's a sunny day, I tend to
Hmm.
take my day off and go ahead and get as much sun as possible and go to the
Oh,
beach and to
okay.
recharge myself, because there's too many cloudy days here in the Northeast.
Yeah, yeah.
That is happening, and so I try to preach that in its own way, because you have to work on your own environment and what you're doing too.
Hmm. So Rashee in Kansas. Hey, what's up, Pierre? Thanks for tuning in. Our Southeastern Conference Secretariat. so so it's I guess from what I'm hearing, it's probably good then to kind of make some health resolutions and to attack those things, because some people say, I'm not gonna make any more resolutions because I always fail, but it sounds like it kind of helps us kind of rewire our mind, maybe. Rashee and then Candice.
Yeah, it's definitely helpful, but also wanting to be realistic in the goals that you set. I know we've all heard of SMART goals.
Let's write that down. Smart goals.
But also, having a goal, but ensuring that you're having small steps that allow you to realistically meet that goal. And also being aware of, are my goals driving me away from mental wellness, or are my goals driving me towards it? Because without mental wellness, how
Mm,
well can we reach the goals that we have set out for ourselves? So wanting to ensure that within whatever goals that you're setting for the new year and for your life and for your well-being, that you're also intentional on ensuring that there's a time for slowing down, that there's a time for self-care, that there's a time for giving back to
mm,
yourself. One thing that I let my kids, my parents know is that if you can't give to yourself, if you can't fill yourself, what are you pouring from to give to someone else? And I want to implore all those watching or who will watch to ensure that you're setting time aside to give to yourself, so that you are not pouring from an empty cup, making sure that time is set aside for your mental health, time is set aside for things that you enjoy, that bring you happiness, that makes you feel good,
mm.
that helps you reset mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and physically.
I love it, Rashee. Wow. Me and Sean, we need to get a session from you.
I don't know if you can afford me, Dan.
Oh my goodness. Well, maybe we'll pool our money together.
There you go. Group session.
Right. So Candice, what say you on this?
Oh, you guys
Recalibrating.
said you guys said a lot of great stuff that just really touched straight to home. So Garry talked about things like fitness. He talked about sleep. He talked about nutrition. And so this is where I usually start. So I usually try to make sure that my clients are aware that when I'm looking at fitness, we're not just talking about the way your body looks and making sure you have that, that new you body, or that trying to fit into whatever trends, but we're looking at fitness, we're looking at nutrition in a way to heal yourself from the inward out. And so when we're talking about exercise, we know that exercise is going to help our bodies to absorb the nutrients that we need. Is going to help, like you said, promote those dopamines. Is going to also help to restore our mental health, and to help you to have better adequate sleep. Nutrition, especially when it comes to plant nutrition, is going to help with that gut flora, our gut biomes, which is also connected to our brain health. And we're also looking at how nutrition, the nutrients that we find, different minerals, is going to be also really helpful to making sure that we have really good mental health as well. So when we're talking about nutrition, when we're talking about fitness, I feel like when we look at it with the mindset of how is this going to make me feel, and like Rashee said, this is going to, by pouring ourselves, by taking the time to eat more healthier, to exercise, is not just about, meeting these these expectations from the worldly perspective, but it's giving yourself more so that way whatever you pour into yourself, it will flow out to others as well. So I love those topics. I love how we talk about health and nutrition. That's like my passion first and foremost. But when we look at all those things, it does actually gives us an opportunity to, when we're healthy minded, it gives us an opportunity to deal with those issues that we have in the past. So I also have lupus. So 19 years old, I was diagnosed with lupus. I was diagnosed with lupus like right at that time that I was in the car that I was talking about. And that was that thing that just made me say, like, I was physically unable to care for my children. And it was one of those things that forced me to say, listen, I love my kids enough to want to be healed. And that healing, as I was trying to deal with the physical healing, God was also restoring the mental and emotional healing as well in the process. So all of those things are wonderful to hear.
So Dan, if I wanted to, like for instance, Rashee talked about realistic goals, right? So this Friday is known as quitting day. And so quitting day is people who makes resolution, and by this Friday, everybody quits or give up on their goals. So whatever you do for the new resolution, you just need to put things in perspective. In our church, something I'll bring out on a couple of platforms is just like, we all like to start the Daniel diet, no pun intended, right? So it always bothered me, and I know Candice, you could kind of speak to this, but me and Rashee kind of like share the same philosophies. It's like, why not do the Daniel diet again in September, right? Why not do it especially in October, where you have a lot of seasonal depression disorder? It's coming up on us. Or why not reset yourself before you reset yourself? Athletes and high achievers are constantly resetting themselves. This is why you kiss your wife in the morning before you go to work. There are some things, or this is why you kiss your wife on your forehead and the cheek and your lips, because they has different emotional feelings, but it overall shows that you have a consistency that is involved. So Quitter's Day comes up on the 10th, and that should give you an idea to start over or to readjust. And so we should constantly evaluate ourselves, not over-evaluate ourselves. Maybe I did a little bit too much here. I'm trying to drink 100 ounces of water a day. Let's start out with 8. Start out with 16. Because you're going to end up going to the bathroom all day, and your whole your whole thing is going to just get messed up.
So small wins matter. Small wins. Wow, Quitter's Day. I didn't want to get that confused with Lent or giving up something like that. Getting ready for Mardi Gras and all that. But
watch your mouth.
Hey, they have that in they got something in there, Bermuda, like that, Rashee?
Carnival.
Okay, all right. So you give up, and, but anyway. So I'm kind of want to transition. I like the coping. I like this.
Can I add something really quickly?
Sure.
There was something that you said, Garry, that I wanted to touch on really quickly about the vitamin D. Vitamin D deficiencies is a major reason why we have mental health disorders in our community today. So I encourage us to not only look at our vitamin D levels, get them checked regularly, but also look at our omegas to see how that is also impacting our mental health as well. People like Neil Nedley is a great resource to look at, because he deals with depression, but he deals with it from a somewhat of a naturopathic. He is an internal medicine doctor, so he doesn't just stick with just that, but he really makes sure that we look at how our body, what nutrients is lacking in our body, which is also can be a huge contributor to our mental health issues.
So that vitamin D, that sunshine, that sunlight is important, especially going into the winter months. You get the winter blues, so to say. Me
The supplements are
originally
great.
being from Detroit, Michigan, and I can identify as like when those cloudy, gloomy days. So it's important to exercise when if you can't get the sunlight, at least get the workout because those will get those dopamines going as well.
If you cannot get the sunlight though, please make sure you also take a vitamin D supplement, vitamin D2, vitamin D3. There's some really good ones out there. Just do the research and talk to your doctor to make sure you can check your levels as well.
And Rashee, depression is real. Speak on that just a little bit, and then Garry, you can say something because that during this time and things that affect our lives, you get depressed. There's a lot of depression, especially when people have lost things or didn't get that promotion that they were trying to get in the new year, and depression can set in. So, can you give a definition of depression and then just some signs and talk about that for a minute?
Sure, I'll go into a little bit about depression, even speaking more from the symptomology of it. So we know that depression can either be situational or more long-standing. And what I'll speak to my specialty, so I will stay in what I'm competent in. But primarily for our children and adolescents, we realize that depression can be triggered from so many different things. We spoke to it a little bit earlier, but what may trigger one person may not necessarily be the trigger for the other. So having an exact list of what some triggers are may not be all the same for everyone. But we do notice that as you're in adolescence, engaging socially, peer relationships are important. Body image is important. The impacts of social media and your standing on that is important, and your self-perception. So what I find as it relates to depression for adolescents is that it goes back to their self-perception or their view of themselves. So if they're not seeing themselves in a positive light, if they're not feeling good about themselves, they're more susceptible to being impacted by the words and perceptions of others. They tend to look to others to define who they are or bring worth and well-being to who they see themselves to be, which is one of the primary issues that leads to depression with our adolescents, which can look like withdrawing, isolating, self-disparaging remarks, not wanting to engage with peers or family, staying in their room a long time. So we'll see lots of those isolating, a lot of those withdrawing and self-disparaging marks start to play out, and where they're a bit more moodier than usual. We know that adolescence is a typical time for moodiness, but if you're seeing it more than the norm, is kind of some red flags to be aware of. So for those adolescents, that's probably some symptoms and some issues that can come about that can lead a young person to feel that way.
Garry.
Yeah, I agree. I think when it comes to young people are very hard on themselves, and also parents should realize they're more of an example to their young person more than they think. One of the coping things, or one of the things that I always tell parents is to get your children involved in making decisions. So let's say, for instance, oh, mom, you stop buying Oreos in the house, or mom, you don't make my favorite sandwich in the house, or what have you. Take them to the grocery store, let them see the process. I'll be a little transparent. Like yesterday, I said to my wife, I said, there's no more raisins here. And so she says to me, well, there's no more raisins because you're the only one that eat raisins here. And if you do not communicate to me that there's no more raisins, I cannot go out and buy raisins. And I don't think we do that to our kids enough. Sometimes as parents, we're the one that's looking for certain things. So if we put some type of responsibility on our kids and put them into the process of what's happening. And I don't want to regret this, but we put a high value on education. If you make an A, we're very proud of you. We don't celebrate our B plus students, and we don't celebrate our B minus students as much as they should. They may be involved in varsity, they may be involved in the chess club, and that takes away from some of the time. And the last thing is, man, the devices has really taken over our kids.
Yes. You can go back and watch the Squad and Friends. That's one of our topics from yesterday. It was interesting.
It's an uphill battle, and it's a fight. I haven't got into it, but I don't think a lot of our young people does not know how to deal with rejection or no. And as an adult, if I'm struggling with that, I wonder what my 14 to 12 to 14 and 16-year-olds struggle with. And we need to have answers for that for our kids.
Yes. I love that. So are there stages that you can identify to see if someone is getting depressed or going into depression?
Well, just like she said, so let me just start with this. And Joy P said this, right? You could be depressed and you can mask it. You could outperform and you could do great and you could mask it. So the depression, in my eyes, or what I look for, people look for people crying, people sad, and there was a picture that I took online and somebody said, "Oh, you had sad eyes at that time," but that doesn't tell the story. I just may have shifted my eyes and decided to post that. But what really happens is if I was to worry about depression, I would look for certain things. I will look what my kids are watching on TV. That is the first thing. I would have no problem. I would eavesdrop and listen to what they're talking to their friends about. I would make sure that device is mine because I'm the owner of that device. Not
you
they
sound like,
are the
you sound
owner.
like Sean. You sound like Sean.
Bro, I'm trying to tell you because it's a window into their world that you have no idea. You need to find out who your kids are attracted to, who they like, and you need to find out what they like and what you don't like. Even down to the very football team, the very athlete that they like, and who they like online. Because it's not like when we were growing up, it was on TV. Our kids watch anime and they watch YouTube. And man, I can't even cross over to that. And they watch episodes on episodes back to back. So it's we have to keep pace to find out, and you find out that they're depressed because their favorite character on TV got played out in All American.
Wow.
I say curiosity is the biggest thing. Being curious as a parent, being curious as an individual, as an adult for yourself, being curious about what's going on, why it's going on, and what's contributing to what's taking place in your life. The more curious you are with yourself, the more answers you'll get, the more clarity you'll get, the more you'll have that awareness of no, things are not going the way I'd like it to be. I'm not happy with this, or I am happy with this, or why do I keep doing this pattern over and over? Why do I keep falling in these same situations? Why are my kids listening to this music? What does he like about this music? Curiosity is such a huge thing that brings about so much insight and awareness that can help you for yourself tune in to say, am I feeling depressed or lonely or whatever the case may be? Or is my child now dealing with depression or loneliness? So I say without curiosity is it's going to be harder to differentiate, because at times you're not saying, well, is this just who my kid is this just who I am, or what's really challenging some of those things, so that you're not taking away from who you are, who your child is, labeling them with depression, but having that understanding of who they are to be able to differentiate between what is normative and what's not.
I love it. I love it. Um, as we start to wrap up here, I would like to know if there's any type of advice you would like to give people who may be experiencing some trepidation of the new year, since you guys are on the first show in the new year. I'm going to start out with Candice. What type of advice would you like to give our listeners to going into the new year, starting these resolutions, trying to recharge themselves? What advice would you like to give?
The first thing I want to His grace is
Can't hear you. Can you speak up a little bit?
Sorry about that, guys. I was having some technical issues here. Can you
That's
hear me here?
Yep. Mhm.
All right. I want to say that His grace is sufficient. If His grace is sufficient, we can give ourselves grace as well. We constantly stay in connection with Him, but also stay in connection with your doctors to make sure that everything is healthy and everything is good. And also, I'm a mom, so this is where my passion is. Stay connected with your families. Make your families a place that can be a safe place to land at the end of the day.
Okay. Rashee.
I have a sign, not in my office now, but in my office, that says mental health is a priority. And I have that for the purpose that whenever a client walks in, child, parent, whomever, that they see that and they actually take it to heart. Your mental health is a priority. Because you've been moving away for so long, because you've seen your family moved away, doesn't, and it's not working for you, doesn't mean that you have to move in that same way as well. So take the time to give back to yourself, to feed into yourself, to learn about yourself, and to, if you need to, see a therapist and find someone that can give you that support that you're needing. It doesn't matter if your mama hasn't seen a therapist or if your uncle don't like therapy. It doesn't matter. Find someone who you can talk to, who can support you, who can help challenge any negative or irrational thoughts that you may have, who can help build you up and help you see the great things about yourself and your life that you're living, and help support you live the way that you like to live for an optimal mental health. So mental health is a priority.
Someone says, Rebecca, stop making New Year's resolutions. I don't know. It's we talked about that. It seems like that you can make resolutions. It's just not real. What is it? Unrealistic resolutions.
Well, it doesn't have to be resolutions, because we make resolutions every day. Every day. So it's like, yo, I'm going to eat this. I'm going to drink more water. And so whether it's and then every February 1st, people says, it's a new month. I'm going to do this. Every Monday or Sunday, it's a new day. So whether it's, I'm going to have to disagree with that, whether it's a resolution, every day is a new start. Nobody wakes up in the morning and say, I'm not going to do this, or I'm going to do this. They always resolving themselves that they're going to do something better. So I just have my 5 things. Look, do it now. Mm-hmm. Whatever you need to do, don't procrastinate. You'll feel your anxiety will go away. If you have a bill, again, I'll be transparent. I have a Verizon bill that I need to pay today. I'm going to pay it today. And it feels better doing it today than doing it tomorrow. Do it early. Whatever you need to do, get it out of the way. For some reason, for humans, we are the king and queens of procrastinating, and it's not going anywhere. And that's why we fail at our resolutions and our promise. Number 3, take time for yourself. Please do. And taking time yourself is not while you're putting on makeup, not while you're sitting on the toilet, and not while you're in the shower. That's not time for yourself. Just turn off the TV for about 15 minutes. and hear what the Holy Spirit and tell what God has to say to you, because you'll be surprised. And number 4, plan it out. Some of the things does take time to plan out. You know, you want to run to the grocery store. Yeah, but you know, you want to probably stop by the vegetable shop first, or you want to make sure you want to go to the bakery instead of going to a one-stop shop. You know, there's special places in your town that you would like to go to. Go ahead and take some time and plan it out and get away from your wife and your husband and your kids for a little while, and take some time for yourself and put that into plan. And at the end of the day, does it really matter what you're beefing about? You know, we find out that we're have a lot of arguments, or we disagree with people, and something as simple as this. I'm gonna go down the part with Dan. It's like, as much as I love sports, does it really matter if the Detroit Lions go on the road, or if they play at home this weekend? Does it really matter if the Tampa Bay Bucks, Mike Evans, gets his extra pass and he gets $3 million? Because at the end of the day, we get ourselves occupied in stuff that has nothing to do, absolutely nothing to do with us but entertainment. And if we could reduce that for a little bit, it reduces our anxiety, and try to transfer that into our own life. Because what we see on TV, people have their own life, and we tend not to take care of ourselves.
I love it. I love it. And you know, I love what I'm seeing in Candice's background. To me, that's what it's all about. How to get that peace. We're chasing after that peace. We can get that peace. Peace can be achieved through God, the Holy Spirit, through a counselor too. Jesus and the counselor, they go hand in hand. Make sure you're working out, the water, the sunshine. I love it. I love it. So, thank you guys for joining me. You guys kicked it off right, giving this great advice. If you guys didn't write it down, you can go back and watch it again on YouTube or Facebook, or even on Joy Broadcasting Network. There wasn't too many questions. Maybe people were a little like, I don't know, but we'll get more questions next time. Next time we're going to have two. We're going to have Dr. Oliver Davis Jr. and Dr. Sheila Davis. They're going to be talking about relationships. So couples and relationships. So that should be good. We're jumping in. We're trying to help our people out and everybody. So spread the word. Thank you once again, everyone. And until next time, peace out of here. So,
The Joy Broadcasting Network is expanding, and we want you to be a part of it. Need something to watch? Want to spend time with your family watching wholesome programming? Then the Joy Broadcasting Network is for you. You can find JBN on Roku. Just type in Joy Broadcasting Network in your search bar. As you can see here, mine is already saved. There's programming for children, faith-based documentaries and movies, devotionals, concerts, events, and music, as well as The Squad and Friends, and so much more. The Joy Broadcasting Network, sharing the joy of Jesus around the world.